Well, good morning everybody. Welcome back to the Life's Good. And it's Friday, Good Friday in fact. And it's a gorgeous morning here in the northeast of England. And it's one of those days that makes you feel like you just want to get out in the garden. I've got a few things to do today and a few things I wanted to show you. And I've made a few plans to try and increase my growing space. So I'll take you down onto the plot and show you what we're up to down there. Let's go and grow some food. Well, as you can see, everything's much the same as it was when we were last here about a week ago, guys. I have put some mesh over my shallots. If you can see here, I've got some wire mesh and I've just laid it over the top just to stop the birds from scratching these shallots out of the ground. And I was quite surprised when I was here this morning when I looked down. This one in particular, if I just lift that out of the way, you can see has already sprouted. That was quite a surprise, and that was very quick. Normally they take a little while, but that one's obviously keen to get going. And the others seem to be still in the ground. As I said, you have to watch out for the birds with these. They will peck them out of the ground, given half a chance. And everything else is neat and tidy. I've had a tidy up around the edge of the chicken run there, put some soil back in the trench I created by putting in this new pathway. I've sown some flowers in there. I've put some cornflower seeds and one or two other things, so that should look quite attractive when they come on. And they're a way of attracting the pollinating insects into the garden as well, something like the hoverflies and the bees and so on. So yeah, that's another little job we've managed to achieve. And I've sown some sweet peas in these tubs here. This isn't their permanent location. I've sown the seeds in these pots with the obelisks in the top for them to climb up. Incidentally, that sweet pea seed was something I saved for my sweet peas last year. I pulled all the pods off, kept them in the greenhouse in an envelope, and I've sown all the seeds in these tubs this year. So hopefully we'll get a nice show of sweet peas from these. But once they're all up and growing and coming into bloom, I will be popping these out onto the deck by the French doors. They provide a nice splash of colour and some lovely fragrance as well. And everything's coming on in the greenhouse. I keep popping in and showing you guys. It's my way of showing off, I think. There's so many things going on. I've got quite a few blanks in the peas here. These are the peas I'm growing for garden peas. But if you look in here, there's quite a few blanks. So I might pop in a few more in another tray maybe, or even fill the gaps in with some sown peas in these trays. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed that some of these haven't germinated yet. So I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with the seed, something wrong with the soil. I'm really not sure. Could be all manner of reasons why they haven't germinated. But I'll sow some more. There's plenty of time at the moment. I'll sow some more to compensate for the gaps here. My spring onions are just showing through. You can just see those in there. And moving further over, this was the sort of salad chard. They're all starting to pop through now. The mixed lettuce, that's come on really quickly. Again, as I've said before, we're growing these for the cut and come again leaves rather than full-hearted lettuce. And what have we got here? Beetroot, I do believe. I'll turn the stick around. There we go. These are my beetroot, and they were sown on the 18th of March. And they're picking up now. They're doing quite well. So I've got beetroots here. Now this is what we call multi-sown. So I've got 3 or 4 beetroot in each cell. And they will grow together quite happily. They tend to do better in little groups. They quite enjoy the company, I think. But once these have matured a bit, I will put the whole plug, complete with the 3 or 4 plants in the ground as one sowing plug. I don't split them up, so they stay together growing in the ground, and they do force each other apart eventually. And hopefully we'll get a reasonable crop of beetroots from those. The Lolla Rossa's doing well. The radishes are really racing away now. As I said before, the Ferrari of the plant world, these guys, and they do grow very quickly. And even so, the pea shoots on the side here. Now, to be honest, some of these you can almost start pinching out now and using in your salads and sandwiches and stir fries and things like that. So the pea shoots, one of these tubs I'll probably take indoors and pop in the kitchen, and we can keep taking those. And yeah, they're doing really, really well. And equally so, the mustard and the cress are germinating and growing very quickly here. And if you watched the last video, I showed you how the kids can get involved in growing those, and you do get quick results. And look at these guys, loads and loads of lovely mustard and cress growing there. And my potatoes, they're ready for putting out now. Cheryl said, well, she reminded me that we need to do this today, perhaps today or tomorrow. We've got 2 days off, the pair of us, so that's really nice. Today's Good Friday, tomorrow's Saturday. I'm back into work on Sunday. Cheryl's back in next week, back into the hospital, and incidentally she will be working on a COVID ward. So I think she's a bit concerned about that, guys, but needs must at the moment, and we're all doing our bit. We digress. Something else I've done, that's a spinach growing there, and in here, this tray I've split in half. The front section here is my golden acre cabbage, and the rear section is the Calabrese broccoli. So I've sown a few of those. I don't need that many, not for Cheryl and I, but that one tray split in half, I've got cabbage and broccoli sown in there. Right guys, now then, if I whiz you around and we look across the road, yes, you can see my big stack of compost. I told you about that before. £8.50 for 360 litre bags. We actually purchased 9 bags to keep us supplied. What I'm intending to do, that will not all get used in pots and containers. Some of it will be used for the tubs for my potatoes. But behind it, you can see that wooden sort of greenhouse type structure. I had an old wooden shed there. It was a tool shed at one point. I amalgamated the tools, the garden tools, into the larger shed behind, and I turned this into a sort of temporary greenhouse. Now, I haven't had much success with it. I clad it in plastic. The plastic is actually ripping and falling off the frames now, and in fact the wooden structure itself is not in the best of condition, and the roof has started leaking. So I've been looking at this, and I was starting to do some measurements, or I took some measurements. Now, from the back of the shed up to this join here on these slabs, which is just in front of the water butt, that is 6 feet, and 6 feet across. I don't know if it's just over 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet that way, 6 feet across that way, so 5 or 6 feet, 6 feet that way. That'll give me over 30 square feet of growing space. So what I'm thinking of doing is to get rid of this structure and its base, lift these slabs here, remove those, and the area below, I've got some old fence posts and an old railway sleeper. I could produce a bit of a wall around that area, similar to the wall I've got around my vegetable plot, and prepare the soil as another growing bed. And I thought, you know, I'll get far more produce from that area there than I ever could from that makeshift greenhouse structure. So that is my plan today. I'm going to be setting up and removing all of this structure and the base below it, and setting about making another bed there for growing food. All of the above.
Yes, darling.
Beer and wine. Get in. Well guys, that's the shed pretty well dismantled. Everything's still stood against here. I'm gonna have to sort that out at some point soon, but we can see now relative to the size of Daisy there, that if I remove these 3 slabs as well, that gives me quite a considerable space to grow a lot more produce. And I would imagine the square area of this would be very similar to the square area that I've got there with the carrots in. Now, last year there was lots of lettuces there and radishes and spring onions, and if I crack on and get this organised, I could pretty well grow all my salad crops in here, which would free up a lot of space out here for a lot more veg. I think that's a plus in all areas. Daisy's having a little scratch around there. She's finding all sorts of bugs and grubs, aren't you, Daisy? Yeah, you're demonstrating to everybody what it's like here. Yeah, as you can see, the base of the shed was an old pallet. That's pretty rotten now. That rot was actually ascending through the timbers of the shed. It wasn't very stable, and as I said, I wasn't getting much success growing things in there as a temporary greenhouse. I'm going to be much better off with this area as a garden. So I'll show you what happens next as I progress with this little project. Well, everybody, for you guys it's been a few minutes. For me, it's been a hard, long day of labour, but I think it's worth it. I now have another bed on the plot that I can use to grow food. Underneath, I just loosened up the clay and the gravel and sort of levelled it off a little bit. And I think I've used 5 bags of the multi-purpose compost that I'd acquired from that local farm outlet. And I'll let that all settle down now. It might need a top up before I use it, but to all intents and purposes, I now have another area to grow my vegetables on. So I'm really, really pleased. So on that note, I think I'll have to say goodbye, go in for a well-earned shower, and I think I'll reward myself with a couple of beers, and I think Cheryl's bought a bottle of wine to go with our dinner. So, from everybody and everything here at The Life's Good, whatever you're doing, you take care of yourselves, you be happy, you be safe, come back and see us soon. Bye bye now.